Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. Terry Gallagher. Welcome to this episode of Come and See, where we look at the intersection of technology and science. Today we're going to talk about not a new energy technology, we're going to talk about an old technology. We're going to talk about using our feet. You know, human beings were made to walk. And somewhere along the way we forgot that and we started to idolize the car culture. And so cities that were originally built for walking became cities that were meant to buzz through. Cities that devoted a lot of resources to cars rather than human beings. A few years ago, my wife and I made the conscious decision to move from suburbia into a downtown urban area. And what really attracted us to this particular downtown is it's a medium-sized community, but it was very accessible. It was very accessible by walking. What makes a city accessible by walking? Studies tell us that if you have beauty, and so flowers, and if you have attractions, so like a museum. So our condo is right over there. Between our condo is a museum, is flowers, is sculptures, is the main library. Around the block are the bars and the restaurants we go to. A couple blocks away is the theater that we go to. About a mile that way is the main train station that I go to. All of that very walkable. Aurora, the city we live in, is very consciously devoting resources to attracting people downtown to live. And so they're rehabbing old buildings to become apartments and condos. Why is this important? Well, scientists tell us that in the future, the majority of us are going to be living in cities, in urban areas across the globe, some of them very massive cities. And there's money to be saved if we do more walking. There's pollution to be saved by we're doing more walking. But more importantly, it starts to break us away from the individualism. One of the detriments of our modern society is we've embraced hyper-individualism. And there's a lot of behaviors that encourage that. We live in separate homes. We're trapped by our computer screens, our TV screens, our video screens. And when we transport ourselves, we travel in individualized cars, all of which breaks community. So there's a lot to be said for making walkable communities. There's benefits in terms of pollution. There's benefits in terms of health. But probably the biggest benefit is there's benefits in terms of community. Getting out in community breaks our individual selfishness, our privilege. Probably the greatest thing that keeps us from responding to the climate crisis is we don't think it affects us yet as individuals, and we forget about community. Walking, you know, our youngest son is married to a young lady from Germany, and they now live in Germany. And if you look at the German nutritional habits, I think the only thing that gives them their long life is the fact they walk. After large meals, they walk. They walk to restaurants. Returning to that habit of walking, of using the feet that God has given us, allows opportunities for exercise, to reduce pollution. It also offers opportunities to grow in community. The numbers are great from an environmental standpoint, from an economic standpoint, but even more important from a community standpoint. In the end of the gospel, where the disciples are going back home because they've lost Jesus, Jesus has been crucified, and in total despair, there was two of them on the road to Emmaus. And it was in the walking on that journey where they encountered the risen Christ. Without walking on that journey, they would never have done that. Walking among our community allows us to see God's Spirit alive and at work in this world within you and within me, rather than our separateness. Walkability, making communities, it's a very critical process to go after. It takes intentionality. It doesn't take necessarily a lot of money. After all, we spent tremendous amounts of money making cities possible for cars to travel in. And so we can actually save money by devoting more resources to walking. But you can take existing cities and you can cut off one block every other block or every third block and make that simply for walking, make it pedestrian malls. We have streets in downtown Aurora that we frequently close off to have celebrations, to have music, to have art festivals. What if we were to do this all the time? Sidewalk cafes, walking to destinations, walking to connections. The communities of the future that most benefit humankind depend on us breaking the mold that cities are not made for cars. Cities are to be made for human beings. Come join the movement. Let us be wise enough to follow God's Spirit at work in the world. Let's begin today. Cities, walkable cities. We can do this.
And faith is not in knowing, it's a willingness to learn. And faith is found in loving when there's nothing in return. So come and see, around the bend, look my friend, and what could be? Come with me, come with me. There's so much more to know, so come and see. There's so much more to know, so come and see.